You know, among us seasoned hunters, there are stories. Whispers you hear in the quiet moments after a rough raid. Stories about a guy who didn't just bend the rules of our world, he shattered them. And this legend, it didn't start with some big explosion. It started with the quiet desperation of the weakest hunter any of us had ever seen. Today, we're finally opening his dossier.
And this is the real question, isn't it? It's not about gear or mana stats. We're talking about a change so fundamental, so absolute, it completely rewrites the map of what's possible for any of us.
All right, so here's how we're gonna break this down. First, we'll look at his rock-bottom beginnings. Then, we'll get into the architecture of his power, that army of his. After that, we'll analyze the mindset that made the world's top brass sweat. And finally, we'll cover the final test, the one that saw him reborn as the Shadow Monarch. Look, to even begin to understand the king, you have to go back. You have to understand the man when he was absolutely nothing. The foundation for all that power wasn't built on talent or luck or some fancy bloodline. It was built on the cold, hard ground of desperation and staring death in the face day in and day out. I mean, just look at this. The difference is it's staggering. On one side, you have an E rank, the guy who is literally a liability in any party, barely scraping by. On the other, a being that our best systems can't even classify. This is the transformation we're here to figure out. And here's the thing you've got to get. He wasn't like a lot of hunters, chasing glory or cash. His fuel was pure, uncut desperation. His mom was sick, his sister depended on him. He didn't have a choice. Dungeons were the only way. And that reality, it forged a will of iron in him, long before he had an ounce of real power. But that willpower alone doesn't make you a monarch. His power, it was built differently. See, he didn't just beat his enemies, he conscripted them. Every powerful foe he dropped became another eternally loyal soldier in his personal army. He wasn't just winning battles, he was building legions from the corpses of his enemies. And we're not talking about some faceless horde either. No, this army had generals. It started with Igris, the Red Knight, a perfect soldier, the bedrock of his forces, loyal to a fault. Then there was Baru. We all remember the Jeju Island incident, the Ant King who brought an entire nation to its knees. Jin-Woo didn't just kill him, he brought him back as his most ferocious attack dog. And for raw magical firepower, he had Tusk, the High Orc Shaman, a being capable of wiping out entire squadrons with a single thought. And this is where you see the real strategy. He wasn't just throwing numbers at a problem, he was a conductor, and his orchestra played a symphony of absolute destruction. He'd assess the situation, give a command, and his army would execute with terrifying precision. And then, the worst part, the final command, arise. Every enemy that fell just made his army bigger. How do you even begin to fight that? But you know, as terrifying as that army was, it wasn't what truly scared the people at the top. The governments, the national-level hunters, they were afraid of what was going on inside his head. So the American FBH gets the bright idea to try and recruit him. And to do it, they bring out their ultimate trump card, Norma Selner, a woman who could literally look into a hunter's soul and see the upper limit of their power. Now, you gotta understand what this woman could do. This wasn't some party trick. She had peered into the source code of the most powerful people on the planet, national-level hunters, guys we considered basically gods. She thought she had seen everything. But what she found inside Jin-Woo, it wasn't a connection to a power source. It was the source, an abyss, a force so endless, so all-consuming, it just broke her. She wasn't looking at a hunter who had power, she was looking at power itself. But that's not even the part that really terrified them. It was his reaction to her breaking down. No surprise, no arrogance, just a calm, it's okay. That quiet certainty was more intimidating than any show of force because it meant one thing. He already knew. He knew exactly what he was. And that quiet confidence, well, it was about to face its final, biggest test. Because the system that had given him everything, it wasn't a gift. It was a summons. It was calling him back to where it all began. And it turns out, every step, every single level up, it had all been part of a plan. The whole thing was leading him right back to that double dungeon. That mysterious key, the push to get to level 100, it was all just a trial, getting him ready for one final test back in the Cartenon Temple. So he goes back. And inside that temple, facing the thing that created him, the Sung Jin-Woo we knew, the hunter, he just ceased to exist. Something else entirely was born. He's standing there, facing the architect of the system itself, with an army of stone statues designed to be his executioners. And what does he do? He gives one single, calm command, not in anger, not in fear, but with the total authority of a true king. Arise. That one word, that was the final shift in power. And in that moment, what's his rank? What's his level? The question becomes meaningless. It's like asking how tall infinity is. The very system designed to measure him couldn't contain him anymore. He became a complete unknown. And all of this whole impossible journey, it leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question. For years, we've geared up to fight the monsters coming out of the gates. But when the weakest man any of us has ever known becomes the single strongest being on the planet, Who should we really be afraid of? The monsters or him?